If you have seen my video about Guptil89, I did do a commentary about his video and technology. However, with modern technology hitting a brick wall over the past few months, I would like to make this a fresh retrospective commentary with a more objective approach than the video that I uploaded on Christmas Day 2024. But before I begin, I must give a little history lesson for those of you not in the know. Guptil89 was a controversial user for his Rant series about logos, certain technological advances, his responses to the Blackbuster critic in Youngblood Fantasy 91, and his infamous top 10 video on female Sonic characters. That top 10 video is something that I cannot defend because of how ridiculous it is. But in the case of technology, I do want to look at this as a standalone retrospective this time. I will do my best to be as objective as possible to see what Guptil89 got correct and what he did not get correct. For every time Guptil89 is correct, I will back up his statement with citations. Let's start.
Blockbuster. An organization once known for having nationwide rental stores, places where people could walk around and browse what kind of movies and games they had. It was something that was homey and friendly.
First thing, I would like to apologize for the quality of this video. It was unfortunately how the video was mirrored. Now, I don't care too much about the video rental stores. I get it. People were on tight budgets back in the 1980s and 1990s. Why buy a VHS tape for $20 back then when you could rent the movie in question for $5? Unfortunately, the evolution of technology plus inflation would inevitably destroy the rental stores.
Video arcades. Places where citizens could waltz around and try out what game cabinets were available, and use a claw machine filled with toys.
I will admit that I missed the arcades. It wasn't just to play the machines, but it was also to interact with people and pass the time. If you saw arcades in theaters, but the movie didn't start for 20 minutes, you needed to pass the time before you got to your seat. Otherwise, you just wasted 20 minutes. Today, arcades are not a big deal.
Paper letters. Messages that were sent back and forth all the time between friends and family.
Because modern technology has hit a brick wall, the demand for snail mail has returned. It's not just the Zoomers that are willing to invest in stationery, envelopes, and stamps. Millennials are getting fed up with text messages, enormous phone bills, and the censorship of quality on the internet. Generation X will soon follow, leaving the internet mostly for the boomers that text with emojis. So we are seeing a shift in general communication due to people being fed up with telecommunication.
And finally, film photography. A circumstance that involved taking pictures with a camera and then bringing the rolls of film to a photosmith to develop. These four things were really good to abide by. They involved a lot of traveling, but were simple nonetheless. Until all that changed.
When it comes to photography, I don't have an issue with digital photography as if it is good quality without taking an eternity to develop. Even professional photographers admit they're using digital cameras to photographing events. For any of you folks that object to digital photography, I will not say you are wrong for thinking this way.
These four elements that used to be parts of life have been replaced almost entirely by these products. Items that access the information superhighway.
This is where people viewed this as controversial. While it was convenient for the time, people found out that technological advances have to be replaced when they have a blue moon. A blue moon means that the item has died off after a couple of years of use. It's why more people spent money replacing cell phones and digital tablets rather than going back to basics. You are about to find out why as the video progresses.
I really don't want to sound preachy and make it sound like I am repeating what I already thought about the current World Wide Web. But when something you feel is important comes along, you need to speak. Here's the deal. The one major problem about the internet that I didn't think to mention before is that in most cases, it is killing physical socialization, something we humans were meant to do daily.
Since the COVID pandemic, more people are unfortunately having to stay home. While it is good that people want to save their money and pay their bills, the negative is if you do not go outside and socialize with people in real life, it's going to screw you up psychologically. Not everyone wants to stream and play video games. Because degenerate content is unfortunately on the rise, some people crave degenerate content because they don't go out and socialize with people face to face. As much as we want to blame the economy, we also have to blame ourselves for not willing to go out there and take chances. So Guptil is half correct. The inconvenience of the internet is part of the problem.
With Blockbuster LLC closing every single rental store and moving everything they do to cyberspace, online gaming causing so many video arcades to go out of business, and so on, it seems to me that laziness has reached a whole new level.
Is it really laziness, or is it just getting with the times? Arcade parlors eventually had to shut down due to rising costs. PC gaming unfortunately is not what it used to be, let's say a decade ago. So do not blame the people for not wanting to go movie renting or arcade playing.
The way I see it, it seems to me that hundreds of people have forgotten the one simple fact that any piece of technology has the potential to stop working. And once it stops working, you either spend lots more money to buy the same electronic object, or you play it smart and you save a lot of dough by not purchasing the same item.
Dovetail was right about this point. Why? Because if a cell phone, tablet, or laptop computer hits a blue moon, you either have to find a reputable repairman to do the job, or you have to buy the same item for more money along with agreeing on the new terms of service. Let's say you go to a Verizon dealer and you buy an iPhone. That's going to cost you over $1,000. Plus, you have a monthly phone bill and the phone has to be serviced at some point. Or let's say you go to T-Mobile and you buy a phone there. An iPhone, Samsung Galaxy, or other phones would cost close to $1,000. You can't buy a flip phone for $40 anymore. Tablets are no good because you have to replace them every 1 or 2 years, and they would cost a couple of $100s. And laptops, they cost a few $100s now. Modern technology is too expensive and is not very durable compared to, let's say, the technology of the 1990s.
And power outages also play a part in electronics failures. Why am I pointing out the obvious? Well, to quote Undertaker Freak 1127, technology is not infallible. It's never perfect. It never lasts forever.
While this is certainly true, if something can be repaired, it can last a good while. Common sense and logic along with tutorial videos help.
See, if you take the time to think about it, do you really need such high-tech stuff that in the old days only the military used? No, you don't. Heck, I used to use a regular mobile phone. Barely. But I've gotten to the point where I don't need to use one anymore because, first of all, there's plenty of payphones around the parts where I live, and secondly, I don't have to worry about people constantly calling me and sending me text messages because every time you receive or make a call, you end up spending more money than you need to.
While texting is a lot more affordable thanks to the evolution of cell phones and having good plans, Guptill is right. Using a cell phone is very expensive. As I pointed out earlier, buying a cell phone not only costs a lot of money, but you also have to consider a monthly cell phone bill. Cell phone bills are 4 times higher than what a phone bill used to be on a landline. The average phone bill today is over $140 a month. Now compare that to a landline phone bill in 1990. Not too many people used the phones unless it was to order a pizza or talk to a government official. Even then on a landline, the phone bill was $20 a month. Even if you adjusted for inflation, $20 in 1990 would be $50 in today's currency. Still cheaper than a cell phone bill.
And before you jump to conclusions telling me that this problem can be remedied by switching off your cell phone, picture this. Imagine if your companions were having a party, getting loaded, something awful happens to a friend, and another friend tries to inform you about the situation. If your cell phone is off, either they're asked to leave a message, or the dial tone keeps going on for infinity until they hang up. They'd be pretty unhappy, don't you think?
If an emergency situation occurred, like if someone had alcohol poisoning, why would they alert you instead of calling for medical attention? Common sense would tell them to call 911 first, since it would be a top priority. So I do not agree with this logic even if people actually do call someone instead of 911 for an emergency situation.
The only people I can think of who would need something as expensive as an iPhone are important people, like a leader of a country or a fireman or policeman.
Well, not true, because leaders shouldn't need these things when they should be doing their jobs, taking care of paperwork, dealing with bills passed through government officials, and dealing with foreign diplomats. I agree that policemen and firemen need this in case of a serious situation.
Online gaming is, of course, another parasite of physical socialization. Like I mentioned earlier, it's causing every single arcade in the world, except in Japan, to lose profit and close.
Since this video, arcade parlors even in Japan are going under, so this point did not age well. As for PC gaming, there is no oversight of quality on PC gaming, and in fact, PC gaming sites including Steam have censored adult-oriented games due to feminists complaining about objectification. This is basically Gamergate 2.0.
It isn't just home console ports of arcade games. Do arcades need the World Wide Web to function? Nope. Even though you have to pay to use a game cabinet, Xbox Live does the same thing in the web-enabled world. That means you're losing a lot of cash playing a shooter game all day long, and you're not getting out as much as you should. While the PlayStation Network and Nintendo Wii's Matrix offer free service, the fact of the matter still stands. The information superhighway can suddenly go down out of the blue, and it can take days or even weeks to be restored.
I do not agree with this point because unless there is a major cyber attack that will destroy companies, there is no way in modern times that it would take even 1 week for the internet to be restored. I want to say this is a hyperbole, but it's not the case.
If you've seen my second technology rant, it's especially bad if hackers are involved. There's even people whose internet goes down all the time. And sure, the plan for a cyberspace blackout on March 31st was denied, yet there will always be a chance of a blackout because once again, technology isn't perfect. There isn't much to say about film photography and paper letters. Digital cameras and email have almost entirely replaced these two things. They're still around, but quite rare.
It ain't rare anymore as in 2025. Snail mail is in demand. Don't be surprised if stationery at Walmart or Dollar General go up in price due to people revolting the state of the internet.
Practically, the only people I know who write paper letters are the poor, the Amish, prisoners, and military people away from home.
Don't forget Zoomers and Millennials. Generation X is slowly coming around to returning to snail mail as well. Boomers will probably be the only generation that will rely entirely on the internet for communication in the coming years.
And film photography, well, only about 4% of the world would like to have physical developed photos.
Since this video in 2012, the demand for film photography is much higher now. There are tutorial videos on how to develop pictures from film cameras. So yes, film photography is back, and I do not have an issue with this. I personally like digital photography due to time and convenience, but I do respect film photography as well.
Still, a film photo has better quality than a digital image. I would prefer to have a film photo on my wall over a pixelated and fugitively inked one. I myself am interested in film photography, but it won't be easy at all to find a film camera since you'll only be able to find one on eBay, at a flea market, a yard sale, or a thrift store. And for most of the world, photosmiths are extinct.
Which is why tutorial videos exist now. Do your own development instead of relying on someone else. The magic of YouTube, ladies and gentlemen.
The only people who really develop film these days are X-ray technicians and dentists. In short, iPhones, online gaming, what have you, with the exception of computer, are just very expensive toys. These are the things the companies and you think you need.
This is why people today are revolting. Why? Because the technology is not only more limited due to low quality parts, also, the technology is a lot more expensive and has incredibly low durability. Why keep buying the same stuff that gets more expensive and does not last long? Common sense and logic.
And let me remind the viewers that I am talking to regular people. You know what's more important than your expensive smartphones, being glued to your seat playing a web-enabled game, and so on? Outside and inside exercise, playing an instrument, spending time with a close friend, and of course, book reading.
Before we get to book reading, I can suggest other things to do for entertainment and socializing. Take up a sport, go camping, go hunting and fishing, if you can get the licenses for it. For you adults watching, go to a bar or casino. If there is a social gathering like a convention or a dance hall, go there too and interact with people. Hell, if any one of these people wanted to come on down to Texas and meet me in person, it would be of their own volition. Whether I would meet them at a convention, a bar, a casino, or a bingo hall, it's up to them on what they want to do. Now let's continue on.
But even book reading is getting a little ruined too with a device called the iPad, a device that requires a battery to run, and you can use it to go online and download a book.
iPad, Nooks, etc. Boy, a lot of people were foolish enough to waste their money on things, not realizing that they lasted a year or two. Not only that, But digital books are subject to censorship at any given time. When Amazon started banning books for hate speech and challenging the medical establishment, yet platforming pornographic books, that was when I closed my Audible and closed my Amazon account. If Amazon is going to ban books for hate speech, yet platform degeneracy openly, then why support them? If the doctrine of fascism got banned, I would be furious. That's the hypocrisy of the internet. Ban hate speech, ban people for investigating the medical industry, and ban people trying to promote actual morals to the youth of America. Yet platform degeneracy, platform capitalism and communism, etc. That's why I no longer buy books digitally. It can be pulled at any time and you do not own the book. You just paid for the licensing of the book.
I don't see such a big deal about heading to your local library or Barnes & Noble and picking out a physical book that requires no electricity and can last for eternity. The same thing also applies to renting DVDs. I mean, Netflix and Blockbuster Online are okay, but people have streamed movies and rented them off the web to the point where most, if not every rental store in America has gone out of business.
People had to get with the times, especially after the Great Recession of 2008. It was a losing battle, Guptill. I hate to say that.
Thankfully, physical DVD rental is still going thanks to Redbox kiosks and public libraries. Again, I don't see anything wrong with heading to either one and browsing around for a movie. You may argue that you'd be paying more for car gas, yet the same thing applies to the delivery people helping Netflix. Besides streaming, would you rather wait for the borrowed movie to arrive at your house or head to a store or kiosk and purchase it right away? Either way, driving is required unless you can get there on foot.
That was why for close to a decade, people opted to stream. Then in 2023, the rise of streaming finally got people thinking twice. Why? Rising prices, low quality content, and shows people paid for getting canceled at random. This is not just a Netflix problem, this is a streaming problem. Sure, we could settle for free streaming services, but the low streaming quality and the constant advertisements eventually break us mentally. Gupta was right. If you want quality content, you gotta put in the effort by acquiring it physically. If you can't get it physically here in America, you could get a legal import that features English audio. Take for example, I bought Song of the South on Blu-ray from Spain. Grant you that it cost me $32 American, making it my most expensive Blu-ray to date. It is a legal import from Spain, can be accessed to my Blu-ray player, and I can watch it with English audio. You don't need to settle for bootleg content if you can find a legal import. Streaming is dead.
Seriously though, this quote-unquote on-demand streaming business has got to stop. I just want the people who aren't interested in having cyberspace and mobile phones to be fresh out of luck. In a situation like this, the so-called weak should not have to make room for the strong. Having both physical and electronic interactivity is a more sensible lifestyle for people to live.
It is coming to be due to the fact that people can't stay cooped up in their home 24/7. People have to get out there and do things even if it means stepping out of their comfort zone. As uncomfortable as I get having to get out there, especially at my age, I get out there when the time is right, no questions asked.
And I know what most of you are thinking. You're thinking, you idiot, all this is like saying we should go back to using the telegraph and carrier pigeons instead of the telephone. Well, that kind of change was proper. The telegraph and phone both require electricity, but the phone is obviously more efficient because the telegraph sent messages through Morse code, and we obviously don't talk in Morse code.
This is a good example that Guptill brought here. Certain technological advances were justified. Communication and transportation were examples. I'm not saying that trains, planes, automobiles, and motorcycles don't have a place in society. I'm asking how many of you can afford to drive today compared to 30 years ago? It's more expensive to operate a car than to live in a house. Yeah, $12,000 a year to operate a car. Not counting car notes if you haven't paid off the car. Tags, license plate renewal, and the unexpected cost if you need to have your car fixed. All of that could equate to $18,000 a year. So I want you folks to take into consideration the costs of everything.
On the other hand, something like streaming films through Netflix instead of physically browsing for a movie in a store or library isn't more rewarding. It's just easy.
Easy? Yes. Too bad people aren't aware that you are paying for the licensing of a product, not owning it outright.
Sometimes the phone service malfunctions, sometimes the internet service malfunctions. and they leave you no choice but to go an old way. All I'm saying is, there's more to life than all these nifty devices. I may use a computer that has internet, but I used it in the way that it was meant to be used. For work, certain research, or for finding something that I can't find elsewhere in the real world, and for broadcasting this message.
Some people may call hypocrisy on Guptil for using a computer to broadcast himself, but at the same time, how else will you get the message out without having to spend a truckload of money through newspaper?
You don't need to be tethered to the internet. Expand your horizons. Like I urged earlier, go for a walk, play an instrument, read a book, go on a date with someone you like, or manually shop for something that doesn't need to be ordered online, if it's possible in your area. That is all. Thank you for watching.
I hope you folks learned a valuable lesson in an objective way possible. I understand that this video got backlash in 2012 mainly due to commentators having a major bias against Guptil. I mean, yes, his video on the top 10 female Sonic characters is his worst video. No denying that. However, his rants about swearing on the internet, logos, and technology are subjective at best. However, the reason why I did a commentary because much like my own video on technology in 2014, Guptil89 was 4 steps ahead. He saw where the technology industry was going. Because old technology is in demand again due to gaming industries and electronic industries providing us crap quality, we are seeing things that we never thought would come back. It is amazing what the lack of accountability can do to us. With that being said, I hope you folks are aware that these are alternatives to modern technology. Back in 2016, after taking a break from the internet, which I will discuss during the video, I came back to YouTube thanks to Doodletones doing an awful commentary on Mr. Medicare in regards to his first ever episode of Deviance. Unfortunately, Mr. Medicare would get sick possibly as early as 2017 with cancer, forcing to do live streams, sell merchandise, have a Patreon and subscribe star for donations, etc. His cancer would mark the end of Deviance, internet insanity, etc. Well, the backlash from Doodle's commentary on Jim would cause Jim to retaliate with an episode of Hugbox Chronicles called The Tism Storm. That was when I returned to YouTube to call out people in the commentary community. But the one video that drew tremendous ire within the community was called My Final Message to the Commentary Community. Keep in mind, I've never seen King Ego Hates Me. I actively avoided this video until now thanks to Doodletones leaving the internet. This is going to be brutal to watch, but here we go. I'm going to skip the disclaimer and go right into the video.
You know what? I'm bored. Let's commentate on someone who's not at all worth their weight in salt. This is Bourg Productions. You may have seen him around. Hell, I even stuck my neck out for him and called out Leo the video game guy a while ago.
The first problem with this video was the audio imbalance. How in the world did your disclaimer have good audio, but the opening of this video did not? People should have called that out in the comment section.
And then after the whole Medicare drama, he, according to himself, deemed me an awful human being because I support fetishism. Even though this is nothing new. Yeah, to give you an idea of how seriously I should be taking this video, my 5th commentary, 5th, as in, before I officially joined the commentary community, I had said that I supported people who like age play as long as their kids are not involved.
Which should have served as a warning knowing what we know now. And this is where people should be aware that Doodletones drew fetish art of a 6-year-old character when they were 18 years old. This is disgusting like the diaper fetish art. But I'm supposed to be the bad guy for siding with Jim. Get the fuck out of here.
And even though in hindsight I don't like that video now, because it was just a request via Mind Out of Sync and I didn't really care to commentate on it, the fact that I support fetishism was still out there, meaning that Bourg doesn't hate me because I support fetishism. No, he hates me because I bothered to do a video on Medicare.
This is where you are wrong. Supporting fetishes is a gateway to degeneracy and your lifestyle could potentially harm others. That's why you never talk about supporting fetishes nor talking about having a fetish openly, because that's going to label you a degenerate. Jim was bringing awareness that artists that drew fetish art are promoting this shit openly to minors because they do not have a mature filter on them. He was basically warning people not to let minors access degenerate artwork. Unfortunately, people in the CC at the time didn't see it that way.
And this is another thing to keep in mind about Bourg as we go along. He'll support anyone who has been around YouTube a long time as long as they match his ideology. Meaning, despite how much you guys want to get on my case for having an echo chamber hug box, I won't turn on someone for having a singular belief that I don't hold. In fact, some of my best conversations I've had were with people who disagreed with me about something and actually wanted to have a conversation about it.
Yeah, and look how that turned out. They're still around and you were forced to leave because you harbored a child predator.
Bourg just lambasts you about it and calls you an SJW, which is what we'll be seeing today.
You gotta love the bias from Doodle here, and this is where people with an objective stance criticized Doodle Tones when the video came out. When I made a rant on the commentary community months ago.
Ooh, I do. It was a subjective mess that was basically telling the commentary community how to do their commentaries to appease you. Yeah, you wanted to set some rulebook down so you could have some sort of objective taste to a community who doesn't want a rulebook telling them how to do what they enjoy.
And guess what? The people that didn't listen ended up producing some of the laziest content that people have ever seen, and it turned the community into a big failure. The reason why I made that rant was because of the hypocrisies, the drag out of commentaries, and the poor entertainment value overall.
So you made it because commentators are humans and your subjective opinion blinds you? Remind me as to why we should ever take you seriously. Legit, humans are natural hypocrites, and if you say you're not, you're a liar.
The point I was making was that people are getting lazy and focused way too much on skits and random sketches in a desperate attempt to get people's attention, rather than focusing on the nuts and bolts of a commentary, which is to point out flaws and tell people how to correct it.
That said, hypocrisy doesn't make you wrong either. At most, yelling hypocrisy is just telling people to practice what they preach, and while, yeah, that's a lesson in and of itself that needs to be said, that's not normally the lesson trying to be taught.
It's because I was trying to help people go to a time when people could actually stay engaged without dragging a video.
And as for the commentaries that drag out, let me go ahead and state this as a whole issue in of itself. The fact commentators can make hour-long commentaries isn't the problem, as there could be a lot that needs to be said and with explanations and elaborations of points. The fact that you guys hate a video for it being an hour long shows nothing more than the fact that you have an attention span shorter than that of a 2-year-old baby having keys jingling in front of your face.
So we should risk boredom because someone can't condense a point and pick up the pace? Ever since I complained about hour-long commentaries, people including yourself made commentaries within 8 or 9 hours, especially during the COVID pandemic. It's like what Youngblood Fantasy 91 said in 2012. Commentaries are supposed to be fast-paced, exciting, and educational by giving criticism. Long elaborations risk boring your audience.
And the fact that there are people complaining about this just baffles me to no end. Oh, and finally, the entertainment value is subjective. What you don't find entertaining, others may, so get that stick out of your ass, Orion. Not everyone will agree with your subjective opinion.
Except people did agree down the line, realizing that commentaries are a drag if you make them as slow as molasses because you want to elaborate instead of getting to the point. While some people disagreed, the rant was a hit. When I left the majority of the internet back in August, I was minding my own business until I heard some things from people on VidBit regarding YouTube. One example is that YouTube promoted a controversial program for people to earn points so they could access cool features before it's released publicly. Another example is how the entire commentary community of all things went down south pretty fast. To put in a nutshell, Mr. Mediger, aka Jim81Jim, did a video on inflation fetishes on DeviantArt. Then a commentator named Doodletones did a controversial commentary supporting diaper fetishes.
Yeah, it was an emotional train wreck that I even admitted to being an emotional train wreck just days after posting it. What's your point?
This move dragged down the entire commentary community because Doodletones at the time was a very respectable commentator.
Oh, really? I was a respectable commentator until I defended fetishism. Sorry, Bourg, no dice. If me defending fetishism was what drew the line for you, then both my commentaries on the Tea Party and the Crow should have ended your respect for me way before the Mediker thing happened.
But here's the thing, I never watched those videos and I wasn't even aware that those videos existed, so that argument is terrible.
Oh, and what comes next is so much more amusing.
Because of this commentary, Doodletones proved to be a social justice warrior.
Yeah, me, a social justice warrior. Who would have thunk it?
This right here should have served as a warning as to how awful of a person Doodletones was. No wonder why Lance 1000 called out Doodletones after this video was made.
After all, it's not like my video on Tommy's vlog basically said that there's no more than 2 genders, which isn't an SJW belief at all. Or, you know, my video taking on the fact that nigger is just a word. Or what about that video where I argued against the Powerpuff Girls being a transphobic show because of the episode of Born Sweet Porn? Because those are videos showing that I'm an SJW, and what about my video with Ski Hound on art? Oh, and look at all these SJWs that I'm subscribed to. People like Chris Reagan, Armored Skeptic, Shoe on Head, Sargon, dude, yeah, no, I'm totally an SJW. Yeah, if supporting people's right to free expression makes me a social justice warrior, the fuck does that make you?
How did I reach this conclusion? In addition to supporting diaper fetish, Doodletones openly admitted to supporting vor fetish and scat fetish. Vor fetish is a fetish in which people fantasize about eating creatures. Scat fetish is a fetish where people fantasize about eating crap.
Yeah, note the key word there. Fantasize. You know, imagine. Thoughts, desires, in the mind, free thought.
That's what I was pointing out there, and you were making a joke out of a situation as if you did not deem it to be a red flag. And this is exactly why before you left YouTube, this video had 75 dislikes. I mean, the backlash was not as big as the Mr. Mitiger video. The backlash should have been much bigger on this alone.
You're basically saying that I'm a social justice warrior because I support free thought. This is really not looking good for you, Bourg. Quit talking while you still have time.
Really rich coming from the person that screamed extortion in a courthouse call on Discord in 2025.
Also, Doodletones has blocked people for criticizing him and telling some of his critics to jump off a bridge and die.
First of all, Todd didn't criticize me. My Twitter rants about him were due to really retarded shit he said and done that just so happened to have pissed me off. You know, things like telling people they can't have anxiety over something irregularly negative happening to them, and leaking private vents to others, even though venting is just a release of pent-up emotions at a person that people need, you know, else they snap and shoot up a school. And seriously, don't give me that shit about blocking people making you an SJW. You ran yourself off the internet because you made those private vents Todd leaked to you?
I'm gonna stop right here because Doodle showed a tweet with someone's dead name on there, and I do not want to bring attention to that individual. So out of respect, I'm gonna keep the individual's name out of my mouth and explain what happened. Basically, Dark Ghostwind leaked a private tweet from someone that complained about me critiquing the community. I didn't take kindly and lost my mind. People were justifiably pissed and I was taking a task for it. I left Twitter because I did not handle the backlash nor accepted the responsibility. After things calmed down, I did apologize to the individual in question and moved on. I did get heat from Dark Ghostwind, so I got hammered from all sides, and rightfully so. Since then, I made it a point that regardless if people forgive me or not, I must apologize for my wrongdoings and move on with my life.
Textbook signs that Doodletones is a social justice warrior. Congratulations, Doodletones! You single-handedly destroyed the commentary community with your sick desires along with your refusal to take criticism and seek help.
I'm just gonna leave the seek help part alone, as that's pretty much a sure sign you've run out of stuff to say about me.
Bullshit. You revealed on your DeviantArt that your grandmother thought you had a mental illness. You revealed publicly that you engaged in degeneracy instead of seeking help. You kept doing stupid stuff that subsequently hurt other people down the line. This point had merit and no one had the foresight to ask me why I said that. Now you folks know. I'm always 4 steps ahead.
Now, as for my presumed refusal to take criticism, may I remind you that what these people were putting in the comment section wasn't criticism, it was simply blasting me for daring to call out Mr. Bedecker and support people's right to have a fucking king. When I see legitimate criticism, I either leave it be or I take it into account. You're talking to a person who took actual criticism to better myself when I first joined the commentary community. It was actual criticism that got me where I am today. Now, if I feel the criticism is invalid, or maybe the criticism doesn't work, I will have a conversation with the person in question, or in some cases, make videos on them to explain why I don't feel it is. You're calling me an SJW for blocking those, not trying to give valid criticisms, and instead just want to poke at me to get a rise out of me.
No, what I was trying to do was bring awareness to your degenerate lifestyle because it would potentially harbor degeneracy that would cause a trickle effect in the commentary community. Again, how do people not understand this point? Disagree if you want. Should I have approached this more diplomatically? Yes. But what I said stands even to this day.
For the commentators that support Doodletones, I have 2 things to say to you. First, either you tell Doodletones to take a break from the internet, or you disown Doodletones from the CC.
So you want the entire CC to turn into an exclusive club that isolates a person if Bourg Productions disagrees with them. You know, the same Bourg Productions that dislikes the commentary community anyway, and only complimented a commentator for calling out another commentator he disliked.
Yeah, because Ponder Sprocket saw that Youngblood Fantasy 91 was being a fool and she took issue with said points in a particular video. Even Youngblood admitted that he went over the line. Even to this day, I still love and respect Ponder. I hope she comes back.
You know, that Bourg Productions. Fitbit's poster boy. Bourg, you're no king of the commentary community. We don't have to kiss the feet of thy liege because he wishes to send another user to the palace dungeons. Quit acting like you're the arbiter of what's good for the community because you clearly aren't.
This example right here is why numerous respected names either went on hiatus or left the community. And that was before Ray Kohai and V Omega committed degenerate acts that led to a trickle-down effect in the community. Ray enabled you enabled Ray, you enabled a lot of people enabled you. Looking back on this video, I'm glad that the commentary community rejected me for being an asshole.
Second, you commentators have screwed up so much in terms of entertainment and communication that it sickens me. I'm not talking about the commentators that actually put effort into their entertainment, take criticism, and interact with the fans. I'm talking about the commentators that won't admit that they screwed up and insult the users that criticize them.
Yeah, in case you guys couldn't tell, he's still talking about me. Really and truly, a lot of this video is about me, which is funny, really, because he really could have called this a rant on Doodle Tones and the video wouldn't at all change. I mean, he might also be talking about others, but with everything he said about me here, can you really blame me for assuming that this is just about me?
I love how you made an interjection right here before I pointed out the names of the people that enabled you for being a degenerate on the internet.
For Millsdorf Riddler, Communist Caden, TOG Professor, and anyone else that has a massive ego in the commentary community, I'm going to quote John Taffer of Bar Rescue here. You guys are not hot stuff! Humble up and start changing things for the better! Otherwise, there is no more commentary community.
Okay, first off, even taking out the fact Caden doesn't even consider himself a part of the CC anymore, you act as if these people aren't self-aware of their faults. Ryan loathes Let's Just Comment episode 16 and uses it as a butt of many jokes. On streams, Caden has said that in hindsight, the whole Proto Mario fiasco he was a part of was stupid. And TOG Professor? Well, from what I hear, the only reason you dislike him is due to the fact that Mr. Flipper Invader said that TOG had a bit of an ego with no proof.
Yeah, and look what happened to TOG Professor ever since. He realized his ego was a detriment to him, and he left the internet. I'll give TOG credit for backing out before all hell broke loose.
Now, you could probably argue that this is not the case, but after seeing Flippy in your top 5 favorite commentators, and your only reason as to why that is he called out Hobbs, Ryan, and TOG Professor, you really give me no reason to assume otherwise.
At least Flippy did something productive with his life. He went to the military and actually served in combat. If calling out someone for having an ego is bad, let me remind you of something. If you don't get your ego in check, that manufactures narcissism. If you don't get your narcissism in check, that can cause you to be an entitled prick with no control. It sickens me how egos can lead to degenerate behavior.
The point is, these people don't think they're hot shit. The fans that they collect and earn, those are the people that think they are, and that could mostly be attributed to these people being able to admit their faults and flaws when they see them. Which shows that this huge ego you're referring to is a huge hyperbole.
You think this is a joke. I was warning people to get themselves in order, get you asked to do to your lifestyle, and get things back on track. But no, that's considering policing the community. I'm really pissed how people interpreted this point back in the day.
Now, do you want to know what would show a huge ego? Projecting your personal opinions about a vast majority of a community that you obviously don't want to be a part of as an objective fact about how that community as a whole should change, which should include isolating a person who wants to be a part of said community. You know, just as an example.
Classic deflecting that no one cared to point out.
My final message to the commentary community is that if Doodle Tones keeps on justifying his mentally ill behavior, you commentators need to cut off all ties with him and move forward.
Before I let this video go on, I hope you folks that are watching realize the foresight that I had, especially years later when Akumu and Renminkins exposed Doodle Tones for not blowing the whistle on child predators in a Discord server called the Fruitcake Club. Doodle Tones was going to do stupid shit that would hurt so many people. That point was a warning to oust Doodle and go back to basics. But no one listened. No one asked me why I said that. It pays to listen to Mr. Medicare.
I'm mentally ill because I support free thought. Forget it, you get the idea.
Start focusing on things that actually matter rather than making YouTube nobody's a big deal or clinging onto a social justice warrior just because he has 3,000 subscribers.
So you want the commentary community to turn into a bunch of uptight political commentators? You do realize the vast majority of these commentators in this community make commentaries for fun, right?
I'm sorry, but didn't you say that was subjective earlier? Now you want to point out that it was for fun? Which is it, Doodle? You can't have it both ways. You are either serious or you're having fun. Commentaries are no place for mixed signals.
And making videos on things that don't matter can be more fun than a serious subject. You also want the CC to stop making videos on YouTube nobodies, which to me just screams,
I don't want a video on me!
And you want them to cut ties with an assumed SJW. So those are your demands.
And this is where I want to make a point as the big shoe dropped. If you're going to do a commentary, find a specific genre of commentary that resonates with people. Commentaries in 2016 were a mess, and you were too ignorant to understand this. Now people are getting the picture. Well, that was a mess to listen to. Now you folks see why I did not respond to this video nor watch this video until Doodle Tones left. Doodle had a massive ego, misinterpreted points out of emotion. Their fans ate this video up and showed a massive bias, etc. Now I am aware that a couple of people, to my surprise, came to my defense, and even though they took heat for it, former fans of Doodle Tones realized that Doodle was wrong for making this video. Since this incident in 2016, I burned a lot of bridges from people in the CC that once respected me. Oh well, life goes on. I've been rejected by multiple communities for being an asshole, spouting my then conservative opinions, for which I've converted to a fascist since 2021. I still maintain that 2018 is the worst year of my life because I burned bridges with someone that I respected due to a horrible video that I made and alienated my own fans. I truly never recovered from it, and I still deserve heat for that. You know what is pathetic? The people that listened to my criticisms turned out to be successful people. People that went to the military, went to college, found themselves good jobs, and made good lives for themselves. The people that fucked with me would pay for it. Ray Gohai, Kaden Marks, aka Kaden Monroe, the name's Junkie, Darkscythe, and of course you, Doodle Tones. None of you wanted to get your act together. Now you are history. I realize that by making this video, I'm gonna get heat once again. But Doodle Tones is the reason why the commentary community died. Ray Gohai and V Omega are responsible for causing all sorts of pain in the CC. But Doodle Tones, Nezzy Monster, and 2 June are the most irresponsible people for not investigating and ousting people at the right time. Plus, they were massive hypocrites for protecting degenerate scumbags. So for any of you that want to call me an asshole and that I don't deserve any respect, you go right ahead. I'm done with this video. Yep, finally got a microphone here and I'm testing it out. This is a Toner TC777 USB microphone. Normally this microphone in mint condition would cost $35, but I got this used for $10 and it has a pop filter on it. So that's pretty good. If you remember my response commentary to Doodle Tones' controversial King Ego Hates Me commentary, I used the native audio from my desktop computer. Long story short, the audio was awful and I told myself that if I was going to do videos again, I had to get me a microphone. Well, I was in no mood for a Blue Snowball microphone for the third time in nearly 10 years. It was time to get a condenser microphone with a pop filter, so this Toner microphone with a pop filter is good enough for me. Anyway, now that I have a microphone, I can work on my upcoming commentary 7 Years of Hell. I won't give all the details, but basically, I'm just responding to a commentary that I've never seen in 2018 and why it struck a nerve with me compared to other commentators. That's pretty much it until I have the video completed. So enjoy the second half of July. As for an official upload date, I'll have that on my channel post sometime in the near future. Many of you folks know me as the controversial Bourg Productions, someone who held a long-standing grudge with the commentary community, regardless of his slideshow art. Someone who used to spout conservative ideologies until 2021 when I converted into a fascist. This means I have no respect for the Democrats nor the Republicans, as they are a bunch of clowns that would give clown teeth an aneurysm. And I'm obviously someone who is racist and sexist. Oh yeah, there is a justified reason to hate me, and I know people will sound off in the comment section on that alone. Why am I doing a response commentary now? In 2018, I used an incredibly controversial username called No Respect. It was basically to make videos pointing out the people that get no respect for the things they have done to help others, or the people that deserve no respect on the internet, period. As much as I want to bring back that gimmick, there's no way a gimmick account like that could work in 2025. It is impossible. Nonetheless, I made a very controversial video that drew the ire of the entire commentary community. The video was titled Scarlet Otaku Gets No Respect on April 28th, 2018. What was my reason for making this video? I thought that Scarlet Otaku was going through some issues to the point where it was affecting her content and other ventures on the internet. This video was met with tremendous backlash. The biggest thing that shocked me was the fact that no one mirrored Scarlet Otaku Gets No Respect. I can't find the uncensored original video on Internet Archive nor Jake Cook's mirroring channel. It's pretty weird that no one mirrored this, because now with Scarlet Otaku in hot water, it would be wise to find the uncensored original video and re-upload it so you folks understand the full context of the situation. Since Scarlet Otaku had a reputation for not playing nice with her targets, I'm not playing nice with her on this commentary. It's time to walk through 7 Years of Hell and start this video.
I sat on making this video for a while, and I didn't want to do so when I first watched the subject video because of the reaction I had from it. But after a few months of trying to move past it, I found myself still thinking back on it. Even though I did everything right in removing the person in question from my life by blocking them on all social media I could find.
Already we have a train wreck here, as you just admitted that you cut ties with me over one video. One video! Meanwhile, I've had multiple people making videos on me calling me a piece of shit, and did I block them for the multiple videos that they made on me? No. If they wanted to say something to me, I'd just let them say it, then go forward. As for you, Scarlet, instead of saying, "Listen, Berg, we need to talk one-on-one and straighten this shit out," you just cut me out of your life swiftly without any second thoughts. Why is this an important point to bring up? because I'm going to show you folks examples as to how Scarlet Otaku never cared about anyone until something was called into question. Already, I'm pissed off at this video.
And so I've decided that enough is enough. I'm not going to let these things that I want to say in response fester and rot. I don't even care if I get a response from them or not. I feel it best appropriate now that I have a clearer mindset to directly address it for the sake of standing up for myself and completely moving on from the individual for the rest of the time they are on the internet.
And look what has happened to you since 2018. You got into hot water because you did not handle things correctly and other people got hurt in the process. Yet I'm the bad guy for trying to bring awareness to something serious. You know, I was going to apologize for the original video, but you made it impossible. Now you do not deserve an apology, and I will not give you the time of day after this commentary. Once again, I'm the bad guy.
And no, this won't result in a doxing. Honestly, where you get the idea that I would is really perplexing.
You know why I said that in the description? Because back in the day, if you criticized someone, they would be batshit enough to retaliate by revealing someone's personal information. Why? For the sake of destroying an individual. And knowing that this happened in the commentary community multiple times before 2018, it was a warning to watch out.
Yes, I am very well aware of the videos both made by Bubbling Brook and the duo of Nate Doodles and the names Junkie.
Before I continue this commentary, I want to give my 2 cents on the names Junkie and Bubbling Brook. I've seen Junkie's video and it was a mess. Bad jokes, not understanding cliches, and other stuff that they took way out of proportion. As for Bubbling Brook, I think she's alright as a person. She was the most diplomatic of the 3 people that commentated on my original video. I have no personal beef with Bubbling Brook and made a joke video showing my respect for Brook. But this is a train wreck of a commentary and the original video hasn't begun yet. This is not good at all.
And they are both very well made videos. One is coming from the perspective of a friend defending the subject, while the other is the perspective of someone on the outside looking in. However, there are a few things that Brooke, I know, tried her best to bring to the table but couldn't due to, admittedly, my own willingness to provide the information. I'm talking about, of course, the subject themselves. Or in this case, me. It's nothing new for commentators to get commentated or talked about by one another, but none can do so in such a dated and misinformed fashion like Bourg Productions.
Misinformed and outdated, huh? Oh boy, we are about to get serious when the time comes because rage will ensue. For brevity, I'm going to get right into the original video in question.
I didn't think I was going to talk about a person that could have been the greatest female in the history of the YouTube commentary community. Someone who has struggled with depression for quite a long time. A victim of so much crap that when you try to do something that you like, your past always comes back to haunt you. This didn't just happen to Scarlet Otaku, it also happened to a conservative pioneer by the name of Beastly Evie, who I will talk about in a future video. While Scarlet Otaku may have a decent fan base on YouTube today, Scarlet has some issues that people may never understand.
I'm going to cut in here and explain why the original video was a mess. I gotta admit this right now so we can continue on. Back in 2017, I lost my original microphone due to a flood event, Hurricane Harvey. It's not an excuse for the video in question, but for the audio in question, I lost my blue snowball microphone. Because of that, I bought an outdated headset with terrible audio and had no clue on how to improve the audio quality. This is one of the many reasons why my videos in 2018 were absolutely horrible. Also, I was still using an outdated form of Windows Movie Maker, so I was not able to provide better visuals and such. Aside from the insensitive way that I talked about depression, this is why I do not like the original video. Alright, I'll continue on.
In the beginning, Scarlet's depression was camouflaged as her early videos were mediocre, but as time went along, Scarlet got much better at it. A prime example was her video on Jordan River 89, a person that got flack for numerous reasons. Having a tism fit over Gligar 13 vids, being exposed for drawing diaper art of underage characters on DeviantArt, and failing to discern terrorism from a Sonic hater. One of my favorite videos from Scarlet Otaku happens to be a commentary on the Orion broadcast over Beastly Evie expressing her opinions on homosexual marriage. Basically, Beastly Evie stated at the time she respects homosexuals but did not respect homosexual marriage. Certain people were furious at the video in question. MSchool01 of all people went nuts on social media. This incident not only demoralized Beastly Evie, but it would inevitably get MSchool01 blacklisted from the commentary community. Nonetheless, Scarlet Otaku did call out the Orion broadcast for being a biased asshole to Beastly Evie. As certain people including Aquilov2160 and Scarlet Otaku came to the defense of Beastly Evie, it also caused what many people argue as the biggest division in the commentary community.
Alright, so this is a lot to unpack, so let's start with the Beastly Evie drama. This was dragged on for far too fucking long. You could easily have explained that people were angry at her stance on homosexual marriage due to her religious beliefs. I was one of the people who came to her defense despite my disagreeing with her, and that was why you liked the video. Everything involving M-Skull and Aki and all that shebang is nothing but padding.
Except people needed the full context because a lot of the information would have been lost through time. Do you know how explanations work? I thought you commentators were all about explanation.
Concise, please. Second, the biggest division in the CC? Yeah, no. Bourg does this a lot with small debates like this. Despite the loud uproar from the more vocal audience members, not everyone was as vitriolic towards Evie. Youngblood, for example, was rather hopeful that she didn't have radical views on the subject, only to talk later with her in a DM or a Skype call, I don't really remember which one it was, and come to an agreement to agree to disagree. It was a small group of people within the CC that made the biggest stink about it. If that's what you're focusing on, then your viewpoint is extremely narrow, but then again, that's an understatement when it comes to you, but I digress. Third, and this is something that I find funny, you mentioned how you liked the work I had after I initially got my groove. Bear in mind that these videos are from 2013. Okay, so my new videos, that being my 2013 videos, you liked, but my older stuff in which you treated as the videos I got better at making... Oh my god, you have your timeline so fucked up!
You can laugh all you want because this is not funny. If you folks were around back then, Scarlett's early commentaries were an absolute bore to watch. As time marched on, she improved because she found the skills to make entertaining content. And much like Doodle Tones, Scarlett is laughing at a situation that does not need to be laughed at. This is one of the multiple reasons that I hate about the commentary community. Every time I pointed out something, they either laughed, mocked me, or gave me shit because they didn't understand the point I was making. Once again, I am pissed off here.
It wasn't until March 12th, 2015 when Scarlet Otaku came back with a one-shot commentary. 2015 was when the commentary community managed to settle down and focus on their content rather than one another's criticisms. As Scarlet Otaku started gaining momentum and a fan base, her ability to communicate with people began to dwindle.
Okay, so you mentioned that my ability to communicate with people began to dwindle during this time, and never mentioned anything more of it later on to further explain what you mean. Even I'm having trouble understanding it.
You know something, Scarlett? A good commentator or a good user reads the comments of their videos. If there's something interesting to address, you take the time to address it or you give pointers to aspiring content creators. It's what the commentator does. It's what commentators have done since this controversial commentary came out in 2018. Your common sense is lacking.
Fuck, this is all kinds of wrong. I didn't communicate well with people? Or I didn't communicate well with you? I don't know, what do you want from me? I cannot be sitting at my computer every minute of every day, nor can I just go out of my way to talk to you every moment you want me to. You've only spoken to me a few times out of your own volition. During that time, I was making new friends and settling back into the CC. That would require me being social with other commentators and people within that group. How in any way does this make me antisocial?
I'll tell you how. Not caring until there is a situation brought up. I'm going to skip until I find another important point to commentate on.
Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of critiques in the video, but there were some cliches. One of them being this.
No. Don't you ever touch Lana again!
Wait, what did you just shoot? Kaoski? Yourself? The footage? Lana? Ryan?
Ow, my Chipotle!
That's a good question, actually. You bring no excuse as the random gunshot noise. It just comes off as, well, pointless.
It was a joke, honey, not a legitimate question! No need to try so hard to find something to commentate on! Okay, we don't need to play the whole clip to get what you're trying to say. Which in and of itself is vague. Dude, learn to describe what you mean in a way that your audience, especially your subject, will understand!
How about this? Why don't you put a tally on something instead of constantly pointing it out? If you're gonna say it was a joke, don't repeat it! Tally it and save some time. This goes for anyone currently doing commentaries. This complaint that I made had merit because you complained about me padding important context, yet you justified padding out a point. Get the fuck out of here with that hypocrisy.
This was the point about the cliches, which was addressed by Brooke, and I feel that she countered this particular point well, and I agree with a lot of what she said. No, the video wasn't perfect, but there were some things that I could have done differently, and I took her words to heart. As well as the others before her and you had pointed out. Okay, so, Bourg, with that in mind, I want to ask you, why is it that you're using my old content to reflect who I am as a content creator now? That's like showing off someone's old piece of art from when they were 14 and treating it like that art is the quality of the artist nowadays.
That's a bad analogy and a classic example of deflecting. The point that I made in the original video was that you were padding a cliche that could have been avoided by tallying and speeding up the pace of the commentary in question. You do not want to risk boring your audience, and I shouldn't have to point this out, but I did because you made me. Please let this video be over soon.
And this is something that he just does, not just throughout the entire video, but through everything else that he talks about in his No Respect series. Bringing up old drama and content to make his argument when the content he could use is right fucking there!
Is it even relevant at this point? I guess not. Just goes to show your timing is off when it comes to analyzing.
Scarlet is not a very social person, and for good reason. The following I'm about to show you is a twitlonger regarding Scarlet's personal struggles. This is for the whole world to read, so a link will be in the description.
Okay, no, we're not gonna let anyone else see that. Not ever! That twitlonger I made was to open up about my anxiety and Asperger's syndrome, alongside my depression and how it was affecting me at the time. It is not for the whole world to read.
This is why folks should not make certain things public. Why? Because someone is going to find out about it. Sooner or later, it is going to raise concerns about you as a person. How did no one else see this coming in 2018?
There's a reason why I buried that in the first place, so that I could move the fuck on from the situation. You know, some people actually don't like opening up about their issues because they think it will burden those who they talk to. You know, funny enough, you were one of the people who came to me with words of encouragement. Don't think I don't remember the video that you made saying that I was funny and that you wished the best for me despite the struggles that I was facing at that time.
You're absolutely right. Knowing what we know now in 2025, I actually should have never said that, period. Still, that's on the internet to stay whether I like it or not.
So with all the hard work Scarlet Otaku endures in her personal life, it can take a toll on her mentally. Social anxiety is the main reason why Scarlet is very quiet in her personal life, and I can understand that myself. I don't like being forced into a situation to talk because some people expect me to be cheerful like a cocaine-addicted dick.
Hey, just a reminder at the time of me writing the script for this, the video that we're looking at right now? Yeah, 75 likes.
I will admit that the original video should have gotten more backlash because I said something racist, so I'll gladly take the loss for that alone. One more point to bring up, then it's time to take it home because this pisses me off the most. Are you folks ready for what it is? Let's bring it.
I can't say how many fans actually enjoy Scarlet Otaku the person or Scarlet's content, but I think we can agree on this. Scarlet Otaku is the Rule 63 Rodney Dangerfield. Scarlet Otaku gets no respect.
I fail to see how I'm anything like an old comedian that I've never heard of. But yes, of course, clearly I don't get any respect. I mean, just look at the sub count that I have and the reception I get in my recent videos. Clearly people don't respect me enough to actually like me as a person. Look at all these friends that I have in my Discord.
And look how many of them turned out to be groomers, enablers, and unpleasant pieces of shit. And unfortunately, Scarlet, you were one of them thanks to information brought to light by Chuli. You want to be awful by cutting ties with me over one video, yet victim blame those that were minors, and piss off people to the point of cutting ties with you like the legendary Realm Wars? Is that how you want to be remembered? A vile, reckless, enabling, victim-blaming piece of shit? You know what? I am done with this video. I am done, and we are about to step into a serious void. I don't know how to address Scarlet Otaku directly, so I'm going to address several things that have happened since this controversial commentary came out in 2018. Scarlet Otaku made 2 more commentaries and retired. Then she unlisted the majority of her content to become a VTuber or whatever. I don't care about streaming games. But what got Scarlet Otaku in the hot water was a stream from Chuli, a victim of grooming and sexual harassment as a minor. Chuli posted some screen caps of Scarlet saying that Chuli's evidence was lacking. And this is a running thing that Scarlet does every time a victim of harassment backs up a point with evidence, that it's lacking because of their attitude and such. You do not know how real trauma works. Oh, let's not forget what she said about Akumu in 2020, saying that you can't take Akumu's evidence seriously because of his attitude. Where in the fuck do you get off saying that to someone who got harassed as a child because he called something into question? You know you messed up when Ponder Sprocket admitted to Akumu in a call that she messed up commentating on him. Ponder Sprocket has admitted to messing up and has tried to take accountability for her own wrongdoings, so I'll give Ponder her flowers for that alone. As for saying that Chuli's evidence is lacking, you clearly implied that you don't give a rat's ass about Chuli being groomed by Faghost, Kaden Monroe, or V Omega. This meant that you were victim-blaming Chuli. Aw, am I sorry that I'm being an asshole in this situation, Scarlet? Tough shit! Many people that were your friends asked you to come into a courthouse server on Discord and you adamantly refused, constantly pointing out that you didn't want to be part of the situation. You put Realm Wars, a guy who I believe is one of the greatest commentators of all time, in a position to where he had no choice but to cut ties with you. Hot damn, why stop there? A user named Stephanie Sparta shared a story with Chuli about how you got pissed at a convention because you blinked when a picture was taken. You know how you could have resolved that? I'll tell you how. You ask the person to take another picture with the group and try again. But no, you went off on Stephanie Sparta and made that individual very uncomfortable. Or how about admitting to Boonslayer that you never listened to the call regarding Chuli's allegations about Kaden Monroe, which turned out to be true. Then you decided once again to avoid going into the courthouse and ask Julie questions. You realize how many issues that could have been resolved by going into the courthouse and taking care of business? But you made things worse for yourself. You also said the same thing to David Grimm, someone who I knew as Midnight Anubis. These people tried to help Scarlet Otaku and she refused. I hope you folks understand why I dealt with this in 2018 because now you see what she truly is. Again, why stop there? As much as I don't like Meta527 II, because he stalked Rushutsu and forced her out of commentaries, even he had a point about your attitude being a problem. I can't believe these people have backed up points about how you don't care about anything unless it suits your narrative. Now to the biggest bullshit of them all. Scarlet's lies regarding Chuli and Ponder Sprocket's Discord server. You claimed that Ponder let adults run roughshods with minors when Ponder, even in her most euphoric state of mind, told them to cut that shit out. Chuli shut your claim down. So not only are you an unpleasant, condescending piece of shit, but you are also a lying, enabling hack. So let's recap this because this is why I made the commentary. This is why I demanded revenge following the Chuli stream. You are insufferable. You took points out of context to suit your narrative. You enabled groomers. You blamed victims that were minors at the time like Chuli, Akumu, and Rinmenkins. I don't know how many others that were minors at the time that you victim blamed. You also threw people under the bus over situations that were not a big deal. But you, Scarlet, you didn't give a fuck about me and you were never friends with me in the first place. You do not owe me an explanation, but I will say this. I regret ever liking some of your commentaries back in the day. You were 25 years old when you cut ties with me over one video. One video! You didn't bother jumping into the comments section immediately telling me, listen man, we need to straighten things out and come to terms with a few things. If you did that, we would have straightened out the situation, I would have apologized to you, I would have taken down the video, and odds are you would have given me a warning not to do something like that again. Instead, you cut ties with me right there, and you decided to do nefarious shit that would come back to haunt you, and I'm supposed to feel sorry now that you are in hot water for your actions? No, you do not get an apology from me. I wanted to apologize to you for 2018, but you guaranteed that it was never going to happen. Now I will never apologize for Scarlet Otaku gets no respect. You never cared about me, you only cared about the people that were like-minded, and you get what you deserve. You were 25 years old at the time of the video in 2018, now you're 32 years old and have no respect for any victim of grooming and harassment. Good luck with the rest of your life. You made your bed, now you get to sleep in it. To conclude this portion of the video, I want to say this to the people that still hate me. In 10 years, I've taken heat for calling out so many people that would get ousted. And you people still think I'm the bad guy? Well, here's what I have to say. Fuck you! I'm out of here. Good luck with the rest of your life, Scarlet Otaku, and don't ever talk to me again. Goodbye.
Hello everyone, and this is Bourg Productions with another episode of an educational series. Today's episode is episode 3, Old Technology versus New Technology. Let's go ahead and start this, shall we? Old technology, a timeless treasure of sorts that are being forgotten in modern times compared to the generations preceding it. New technology, a force in which a good chunk of the world relies on for information sources. Why is new technology overshadowing old technology? We will elaborate on this as time goes by, but let's analyze the proper definition. The definition of technology is the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry. Technology has come a long way for man since God created the earth thousands of years ago. There are certain technological inventions that are old, but still we use. For example, we use wheels for chairs, cars, bicycles, grocery carts, and games. In all cases, the wheels spin. In my day, seeing wheels spin was pretty fun, and to some, it is still fun to this day. Another example of a technological evolution is the cash register. The United States Civil War veterans James Riddy and John Birch invented the cash register to protect their saloon from employees taking money away out from underneath them. That's right, a lot of theft occurred after the Civil War due to the fact that jobs were scarce. Today, cash registers are controlled by a computer, which I will discuss about the computer later. I see flaws in the modern-day cash register because if the power goes out prior to the checker making a sale, then the cash register will not operate by any means. Another old-school technological invention was the seed cleaning machine. Why was this machine important? Because farmers in the old days, after hours of harvesting, would save their best seeds, clean it, and dry it for the next planting season. It was a way for farmers to feed the country and feed themselves in the long run. What killed the seed cleaning business? Numerous seed companies. Why would I say something like that? Because seeds were being offered to new generation farmers, 20th century farmers, that was getting into new technological advances. Also, new generation gardeners were buying seeds from the companies instead of the farmers. What makes it even worse is that the supermarkets were booming in the 1950s. Due to the fact that society as a whole was changing due to the American dream, the seed cleaning industry was basically obsolete. When the supermarkets entered the lives of American people, so many farming machines from the 19th century, including old processing mills, were considered obsolete due to rapid machinery that doubled results in half the time. Many of them did rely on electricity rather than manual labor. Whatever the case is, we basically lost touch with common sense. Now to one of my favorite parts of this episode, acoustic technology versus electric technology. While I do love rock and roll, genres like bluegrass, jazz, and classical have been acoustic. Granted that jazz has electricity for certain instruments, most of the time it still holds true to acoustics. The piano was invented by Bartolomeo Cristofori of Padua, Italy in 1698. The purpose of a piano was to balance the loudness and control so large crowds could enjoy the music without either wondering where the music is from a clavichord or having their ears bleed from the harpsichord. It was pretty good technology for the time and is still widely regarded as a great instrument. Today, we have electronic keyboards that almost perfect the sounds of the piano, harpsichord, and clavichord. Fine and dandy, but if the keyboard malfunctions, you are pretty much without music. Here's my opinion. It's more expensive to buy a keyboard than a piano because with a real piano, you can tune it, replace the strings, and strengthen the keys so they play well. A keyboard would leave you in the dark, especially if you have a critical performance coming up. But to continue this point, acoustic guitars have impacted the world for over 1,000 years. There have been variations and evolution in the history of the guitar. I love the sounds of an acoustic guitar, but then there are people that want the loudness that rock and roll plus death metal combine. To me, if you play the blues, bluegrass, or folk songs with an acoustic guitar, you'll have music to last you until the end of time. What the guitar, horns, and piano did was change the face of music and has made music in general very enjoyable. Hymnals from hundreds of years ago used the piano to worship Jesus. Does Jesus find musical instruments like the piano good for helping lift the spirit of those that are starting their morning with Him? You better believe it. Here's another example of old technology that evolved and it's still being used today. The telephone. We all know the story about how people use the phone to communicate from a far distance. If you weren't that far, say 100 feet from another person, you would have used cans, tied string nuts on the ends of both cans, and would test it out on the street. It was an effective way for people to communicate softly without constantly disturbing the peace. This eventually inspired Alexander Graham Bell to create a technological device that would enhance communication beyond mail. Bell and an experienced electrical designer named Thomas A. Watson made history when sounds were being picked up after one reed was experimented with. Today we have all sorts of telephones, whether they are cordless telephones, telephones that require you to communicate to an operator, corded telephones, which I grew up using in the 90s, and payphones. The infamous of all of them, the cell phone. Why do I hate cell phones? People use them way too much even on social calls. Because of it, there is so much drama. When the cell phones evolved, there came features on a cell phone which dubbed the current generation called the smartphone. Why do I refuse to buy a cell phone? Number one, drama. I don't want to hear people griping, crying, threatening, or stalking me while I'm on the road taking care of things. Number two, they cost a ton of money. How can anyone conform to that lifestyle of using minutes that are unnecessary? Social calls are good only on a payphone or a home phone. Number 3. People do not use cell phones for emergencies only, and that is a critical thing. However, the companies that provide you the service expect you to use those minutes or they become worthless. It's a very vicious cycle with cell phones. Now to another form of technology that has been around for so long that going into details on who pioneered the mailing system would take too long. Mail, the oldest form of outside communication in world history. Long before the invention of the telephone, social networking, and all that other good mess, mail was the only way of communicating to an individual far away. A lot less drama back then. Granted, it would take weeks, months, or even years. It was a very good way of keeping up with people, and it was dirt cheap to mail things. Mail was very effective until the beginning of the 21st century. That was when electronic mailing, which is exclusive to the internet, sped up communications with people that were new to the modern technology world. However, certain things you cannot get physically from the internet, so mail still applies, even though it is a struggling business. Now to the saddest part about the whole technological things of life. Reading. In school, they encourage and sometimes force you to read things you do not like. For example, many teachers made me read fiction, even though I was more of a non-fiction type of guy. For example, I read biographies on Walt Disney, Andy Rooney, Bob Barker, Walter Cronkite, Walter Matthau, etc. I've read books on numismatics. A lot of these books I read before I bought my first computer and got access to the internet. You see, social media has a way of insulting the integrity and intelligence of American people. That insult, in my opinion, became known as electronic books. They weren't big in 1999 with Cybook Gen 1, as they are with Amazon Kindle and Barnes & Noble Nook. It changed the way people read novels, articles, and other stuff that I don't care about. Why don't I care about ebooks? Like cell phones, ebooks cost a lot of money and they don't last long. Most of my research does come from the internet because of constant updates and new information. That's the good part about the internet. The bad part is that certain information we look for does not exist as of yet, but somehow you can find certain information in a book that could explain what another person is talking about. The reason why I prefer real books over ebooks is because of the value real books have. Real books are slowly being obsolete thanks to social media and environmentalists that want to conserve every tree. I could rant about environmentalists, but it's irrelevant to this episode. Old school cookbooks that call for saturated fats like real butter, lard, milk, beef drippings, makes it seem like we are living in a different generation. You may not find the original, but the copies still carry more value even if the grid goes down. What about a book on numismatics? Some people can learn how numismatics works despite the fluctuation of the value of the dollar. Real books are what children need to expand their vocabulary and function in society. I could talk about television, but television itself is not evil. It's actually social media that's evil. Do I blame social media for butchering the most basic form of technology like books? Yes. Not necessarily the novels, but for shoving garbage down the throats of my generation. Cookbooks were huge back in my mother's day, my grandmother's day, and any other generation preceding them. My brother can cook, my sister can cook, and I can very well cook a good meal. The problem is that when social media told people how to live their lives in their house and encouraged them to go to fast food places, cookbooks became obsolete in America. In other countries, cookbooks are still big business because people in other nations are smart enough to pass on a time-honored tradition to another generation. That's why I would rather invest in a cookbook in case the grid goes down. Finally, we talk about one more thing that is slowly becoming obsolete. Supplies. Not building supplies, but your basic pen, paper, binder, folder, and all that other stuff that kids used to use in school. Why does this make me sad? Because a lot of schools in America are implementing more modern technology over old technology. Paper has been used for thousands of years. It is considered to be the oldest form of technology that is still used, but not as often thanks to social media and environmentalists once again. Who knows about the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution? Anyone? They are not just 238-year-old pieces of paper. They are historical documents that guaranteed our rights in this country. Did Thomas Jefferson use a smartphone to write the Declaration of Independence? No. Did James Madison use a smartphone to elaborate on the purpose of the United States Constitution? No. So why are we wasting money on things like an e-tablet, e-book, and other stupid things that would easily malfunction even if you try to take care of it? Television and computers have evolved so much that repair shops are out of business. What is my stance on technology in general? I prefer a desktop computer over a laptop. I prefer a home phone over a cell phone. Pretty much basically it.